Hey there everybody, and welcome to the next part of the Camera Raw course. In this class we're going to continue with the development process. So let's go to Camera Raw. Let's choose those 7 photos that we took in the street and we're going to develop them. To open the photo in Camera Raw, we can choose one, or we can make a selection of various of them through the bridge. And as we saw in the last class, we can hit this symbol up here to open them in Camera Raw, or we can hit enter when they're selected. And this way, we'll open up the program Photoshop and it'll bring us to Camera Raw. For this reason, the appearance of Camera Raw here has a different color than the one we see here in Bridge. If we tell it that we want to open Camera Raw from Bridge, the appearance will be the same in both programs. If we open it from Photoshop, it'll have the same appearance. The program is the same, Camera Raw 10.1, and if we open it from Bridge, select the 6 photos and hit this button, well, in this case, we have the same appearance as Bridge, but the program is the same. I'm going to click here so that we can maximize the window. And let's get started working on the photos, guys. Let's do it. The first thing we have to do when we open a photo in Camera Raw is to make sure that the program, in default, has given us, make sure it hasn't given us any presettings, or if it's done any kind of development on our photo in default. Here we can see that in the basic panel, the white balance is as it was shot, and the rest of the settings are all at 0. In the curve panel, we have everything at 0, no alterations. And in the detail panel, it will probably have a noise reduction, or in the focus, we might have some kind of presetting. Like here, like a determined quantity, and here generally, these here would present similar values to the ones that come default to the program. I'm not really sure why, but the people at Adobe, in the detail panel, in the third one, they always make some kind of default change. It would be much better if they just left it all at 0. So what we're going to do is, if we find, like we do in this panel, because the rest of it is all at 0 and there's no problem, but if we see that when we open a photo before developing it, we already have default settings, what we're going to do is take them all to the left, so they're all deactivated. Okay, and once we've done this, we'll check in case, and this will be the case, but in case we have any doubts on how the rest of the panels are, make sure they're at 0, and that there isn't any kind of default adjustment. So, going back here to the detail panel, let's click on these 3 lines, here, up here to the right, and we're going to tell it that we want to save these values as the new default values for Camera Raw. This way, the next time we open a photo from this camera, these will be the default values that we get, and we won't have to change them again. We would tell it here to save new values as default, and when we've done that, we can hit done, and the next time we open a photo with this camera, this one, for example, that I think was taken with the same camera, well, okay, this one wasn't taken with the same camera, but it will be saved with the same adjustments. But as you can see, it hasn't been saved with all the adjustments at 0. But if we try with one I'm sure was taken with that camera, like maybe this one here, well, we can open it, and if we put the default values, we can see that everything is at 0. Except the radius, because the minimum value is at 0.5. We can't give it 0. But the rest of the values of the development are all at 0. Okay, so let's go back to the 6 photos we chose here in the first place. Okay, let's open them in Camera Raw, and, well, when we're over the photo, and we know that we can make it so we can see it bigger, click on this button here, establishing here the amplification level to some presets we get, We don't have to write anything. We choose the one we're interested in using. Right now we're using 150% or 300%. Anything over 100% implies starting to see the pixels that make the photo. So, if we want to see the photo at its biggest size, we'd be looking at 100% of the photo. We can also do that with this tool up here, the magnifying glass. Clicking on the photo, we can amplify it, and with the Alt key pressed and clicking, we can zoom out. So, we won't do anything. We'll zoom in, press Alt and click, and we can minimize it. We can also do that here, and with the keyboard, Command Control plus and Command Control minus, we can also do it. So we can also use it to change the size. This tool is not going to be used very much. The tool right next to it, the hand tool, is going to be used very little too. Once we have the photo at a size a bit bigger than the space we have here, for example 100%, we're not going to be able to see all of the photo and we'll want to move to go to another part of the photo. So, to move around in the photo that we amplified at 100%, we're going to use the hand that allows us to grab and drag and move around the photo. Okay, so let's imagine that we were working with a tool, for example, the adjustment brush, and we don't want to leave this tool and we want to go to another part of the photo. Well, what we'd have to do is click on the hand, leave the other tool, and then go back to the tool once we're done moving. It would be cumbersome. It's a waste of time and of the adjustment that we had at that moment. The ideal thing is that when we want to move around the photo without leaving the tool we're using, we're going to press the space bar. We get the hand, click and drag, and there we go. Okay. All right, so another demonstration that these two tools were something that they didn't need to include because anybody who works nowadays with these tools knows that the spacebar will make the hand appear or whatever tool we're on. And we can simulate the magnifying glass with the keyboard or with the adjustments we have right here. So honestly, these are tools in the toolbar at the top that we're not going to be using very much. When we open more than one photo at a time, this column here at the left opens and shows us that we can go up or down. In this case, as we only have 6 photos, well, it ends here. But if we had, like, for example, 20, we could go up and down to the 20th. We can't make this any bigger, but we can drag from here to make it thinner or wider. But if we have a horizontal photo and we make this tab bigger to for example, here, we can't go any further. We're reducing the space we have to preview the photo. We don't need the miniature to be any bigger, so I normally have this here. Not that much, but I have it as far left as I can take it. This way, the miniatures are small and I have a bigger preview space for my photo, which is enough for me. I can develop a photo separately in the basic development and give more or less light. Or we can select a number of photos, for example. I'm going to select this one and this one and this one. With the Command and Control key, I can select a number of photos at the same time. And if I select these photos at the same time now and I touch any adjustment on the photo, for example, the light, it's going to be applied to all of these photos. This way I can develop groups of photos instead of going one by one. If I see that I have 10 or 15 photos that need the same adjustment, well, I can select them, make that adjustment, and they will all be changed at the same time, saving me quite a lot of time. Okay, then it would also be a question of luck to be able to find 15, 20, or 100 photos that we need the same changes on. It's always going to be a bit of a personalized adjustment to polish the photo, like, for example, the white balance or the clarity or even the tone curve. It can be a more global change in a group of photos. Okay? All right, let's continue with our development. So another tool we're going to be using a lot from the toolbar is the clipping tool. With this tool, we can clip a photo from normal format. Okay. To clip, all we have to do is click and drag to create a square. The square, as it's in a normal mode, will allow me to make the clip more vertical or more horizontal. It could be more or less of a landscape. I can distribute it and make it in the format that I want to. This gives us the advantage of allowing us to clip the photo however we want. However, the photo once clipped will not be in a traditional photographic format. The traditional formats coincide with the sensor formats and the printing formats, like 1:1, that's a square, or 2:3, which is present in most reflex cameras, 3:4, which is also very common in some cameras like Olympus or Panasonic, and some compact cameras. 4:5, which is the format for large format cameras, as with 5:7, and 9:16 would be the format of phone screens and televisions. Okay, so when we choose one of these formats, we can clip the photo, but we cannot change the aspect or the format. If we choose 9:16, we can make that larger or smaller. We can make a clip that's more, noticeable or less, but the format will stay at that measurement. If we want to make it vertical, take it to a small size until it becomes vertical, and then from there we can drag it and we can make it vertical. Or we can simply undo this square with the escape key and click and take it up from up to down or from left to right. If we want to change it from vertical to horizontal, click and drag, or escape, click on vertical, and we do it in vertical, or change it on horizontal, and we do it in horizontal. So first, we choose the format. If we're not sure of the format our sensor has, we can always just click here on Set to Original Crop. That way, we'll be putting in the original format. Well, not in this case, because, let's tell it here to clear it. We'll set it here at normal or 3:2 because it's a reflex camera, and you can tell it here to set to original crop because it's not this one. It's just not. It's this one. When we make the square, we get some vertical and horizontal lines because here we have the show overlay selected. If we take it away, we can see the square. The part that's outside is always a little darker, and inside it's much clearer. When we decide to clip in Camera Raw, for example, I'm going to stick with this part of the photo. The rest that isn't inside the development doesn't disappear. For example, now with Enter, I'm going to click, and it's going to show me what the development is going to look like of the part that I've chosen to crop. But the other part of the photo that we cannot see hasn't just disappeared because in a raw file, we can't clip anything. It's just a preview of how it would all look if we did click, but we cannot clip in a raw file. If we go back to the clip tool, we can see that the square is still there. The rest of the photo is still there, and we can move the square and put it wherever we want. So really, we're never really clipping, but we can preview how that clip would look hitting the Enter key just once. Okay, to put the square away, we have to go to the Clips tool, again, see the square, and if we're not into it, we hit Escape once and it'll disappear. If we make the square and we tell it to show us the overlay lines, well, it's going to show us the vertical and horizontal lines that could help us to recompose or re-encapsulate the image a little better. In this case, I'm going to try and focus it so I can see the cathedral, a part of the street, but I don't want to see this crane here on the right. Hit Enter, and okay, now that I've clipped it down here, we can see the adjustment that the photo is going to have when we work with it, when we open it. Okay. it tells me that the photo is going to lose around 17 million pixels with this clip. If I get the crop tool and hit escape, it tells me the resolution in the original, but I crop it. If I crop it, it will tell me the millions of pixels that are going to be in that crop. The bigger the crop, the higher the resolution it'll have. And the smaller, the less resolution. So right now it's telling me that if I stay with the square, this photo will only have 3 million pixels, but if the crop was any bigger, the photo would have 25 million pixels or 20 million pixels. Always with the proportion that I've chosen here. Okay, so, well, the crop tool is basically for that. To be able to keep a part of the photo we want to develop, and the rest is going to stay outside of the preview. Okay, what else could we do with the crop tool? Well, apart from just giving it a personalized format, like, for example, to make a panoramic at 3:1, and that would give us a very panoramic format, equivalent really to the panoramic cameras that are at 6:17, for example, that are usually in the 3:1 format. So we have the possibility of turning our photo into a panoramic. Let's hit enter, and we can see just the crop at 18 million pixels. We got about half the original photo that had 36. We can also go back to the crop tool and take away the square. And here we can also straighten out the photo. So let's straighten this photo a little bit. I'm going to turn it, rotate it a little to the right. To do this, I can use the crop tool, put it on the original format, 3:2. And when I click and drag, I can always modify this whenever I want. I'm going to leave a little space here between the photo and the exterior margin. And when I go there with my mouse, I see that I get some curved arrows that allow me to turn, clicking and dragging the square to the left or to the right. So if I want to turn the photo a little to the right, what I'll do is turn the square to the other direction, to the left. This way, the square is turned to the left, and when I hit enter, it'll all turn to the right. Let's hit enter once, and now we've turned the whole photo to the right. Okay, so another way to straighten a photo that isn't with the crop tool is with a tool that's just next to the crop tool. This tool is called the straighten tool. It's much simpler. We would have previously had to establish the crop format. I've left it at 2:3, the original, and now I'm going to choose the straighten tool. How does this tool work? Well, we would have to go over the photo and click and drag and create a line, and on that line that we want to straighten. For example, I want to straighten the line that goes right across here under the wall, and I want the photo to straighten using that line as a reference. So click, drag, and let go, and we have a square where the line is going to be parallel to the limits of the crop, in such a way that when we hit enter, the photo will rotate and will make that line horizontal. To get rid of the square, click on crop and hit escape once, and we have it as it is. Okay, so let's imagine that I want to straighten this vertical line here that opens a little to the outside. Well, I get the straighten tool, click, drag, and I create a line, and on that line that I want to straighten. That makes a square with the proportion that we've already set, and with the orientation to make the line be always parallel to the line of the square. You know, we can see it right here. Okay, so now we hit enter, and that line, this line here, will be straight. The rest of the photo in any other way, but this line is straight. Now we've made sure that this line is straight. Obviously, the rest of the photo has kind of gone sliding to the left, but we can see that the photo is crooked but the building has its vertical line in order. This isn't the case, so we're going to say in the crop tool, we escape the square and we have our photo as it was originally. But we can see that it's quite interesting if what we want to do is straighten certain lines, like this one here. If this photo was rotated, which it isn't, and I want to straighten this line, well, the square will help me to straighten it, keeping in mind the line that I've marked. Okay, so as I can't take my crop square there because it just won't fit, I'll make it smaller so I can move it from left to right and get it in there. As the crop is going to be quite exaggerated, I'm going to have to make this much smaller so that this line fits in there. I'm going to hit enter and now this line is straight. As we can see, the rest of the photo is very rotated to the right. Now, let's go back to the crop tool, hit escape once, and I can go back to my original photo. Okay, so now we've seen how to make the photo bigger, smaller, how to clip, how to crop, how to straighten, and we're going to continue looking at the workflow options when we want to open an image in Photoshop, and also seeing the workflow options when we want to save a different image to the RAW file, whether it's JPG, JPEG, GIF. I'll see you guys in the next lesson. Bye!